The other day, a serious question was posed to me on the Doctrine of Hell. And the question went something like this. If you believe in an all-loving, all-merciful, all-powerful God, how can you posit that there's a hell? Indeed, this does seem like a troubling question. But as somebody who runs a website called Working to Beat Hell, I don't want to give up on the Doctrine of Hell just that easily. When we think about hell, I think it's good to think about it in terms of human freedom. One of the things that God created us human beings with was this gift of free will. He created the angels that way too. So both us and the angels have this gift of free will. And free will gives us the ability to choose whether or not we want to do good or evil, whether we want to do right or wrong. That's what free will is. And the free will that God has given us is a true free will. It's not something that appears to be a free will, but ultimately is conquered by God. He allows us to experience the depths of our choices. He allows us to experience the depths of what it means to have free will, allowing us, even if we choose, to completely reject Him, to be isolated from Him. And see, it's this isolation from God that is what hell is. Hell isn't so much a dungeon as we tend to think of it, where God sends the unjust and locks them in and throws away the key. Rather, I think as C.S. Lewis said, hell is a place where the doors are locked from the inside. Hell is a place where we choose to lock God out of our lives. So it's not God choosing to reject us and say, I want nothing to do with you human beings because you've been bad and I'm unwilling to forgive you. Now, that's not it at all. Rather, hell is the place where we human beings say, you know what, God, I want nothing to do with you. I don't like your commands. I don't like your ways, and I'm going to be miserable if I have to be around you. I'd prefer to be nowhere near you. And God says, okay, I give you the ability to make that choice if you so desire. So human freedom is deeply related to this doctrine of hell. See, if we don't have a doctrine of hell, we're not truly free, because it ultimately means that salvation will be inflicted upon us even if we don't want to. Which is fine if we want to be saved. You know, people who want to be saved say, great, I want to be with God, and I prefer He inflict that upon me, so to speak. But for somebody who doesn't want to be saved, that's the worst possible thing. I mean, just think about somebody who absolutely can't stand to be around another person. Well, what's the last thing they want to do is to spend eternity with that person, right? They'll be miserable. Same thing here with God. When it comes to heaven, eternal life with God is great if you want to embrace God and you want to be with Him. But if you want to reject God, if you can't stand God, the last place you want to be is in His presence for eternity. So heaven is that place where we choose to be with God for eternity. That, of course, means that we have to live by the way of life that God has outlined for us. Hell, on the other hand, is the place where we say, I want nothing to do with that way of life that God has outlined. I want nothing to do with God. And so I choose to isolate myself from God. I choose to separate myself from God for all eternity. It isn't God inflicting something upon us. It doesn't compromise God's loving nature, His merciful nature, or His all-powerful nature. Rather, hell is really about human freedom and our ability to choose to be with God or to reject Him. In some ways, I make an analogy to a teacher who gives a student a test. So often you'll hear students say, oh, my teacher gave me an F on this test. The teacher didn't give you an F on the test. You gave yourself the F on the test by not learning the material or by not answering the questions properly. The teacher didn't give that to you. The teacher just gave you what you yourself did or told you the results of what you yourself have done. Well, the same thing is true of hell. It isn't God inflicting something upon people. Rather, it's us making a free choice. So again, it's about human freedom and not about God's loving nature or about His power or His ability to save all people. God has both a loving and merciful nature and the power to save all people. But He's also given us free choice. And so He doesn't choose to violate that free choice that He's given to us and instead says, I will save you if you want to be saved. And I will allow you to reject me if that's truly what you want to do as well.